If the new year makes you feel like you need to erase yourself and start again from scratch, if the word reset fills you with pressure instead of possibility, then this video is for you. Because reset culture sounds motivating, but for many people, it quietly creates shame. It tells us something is wrong with who we are right now. It tells us that we need to fix, overhaul, optimize, or completely reinvent ourselves. But your body doesn't need a reset. It needs rhythm. And today I want to show you why returning to rhythm rather than forcing change is the most grounded and sustainable way to begin a new year. Can I be really honest with you? This isn't something I've learned from theory or, overnight like that. It's something that I've had to learn by listening to my own body over many, many years. So in this video, we'll look at why reset culture fails our nervous system, how real lasting change actually works psychologically, and how rhythm already exists in your body, whether you've noticed it or not. And by the end of this video, you won't have like a rigid plan or another routine that you need to maintain. Rather, you will have a very simple way to identify your own natural rhythm. One gentle anchor that you can return to when life gets busy, when it throws things at you unexpectedly, and a rhythm you can start living this week without burning out by February. Hello and welcome. My name is Taj Bear. I work with Ayurveda yoga as lived embodied practices, not philosophies that stay on the mat or in books. My work is about translating ancient wisdom so it genuinely supports modern nervous systems, modern lives, and real people with real responsibilities. So here's why reset culture fails. Something that we're rarely told. Your nervous system is not designed for abrupt reinvention. From a biological perspective, the body is wired for homeostasis, the ability to stabilize, self-regulate through consistency, through repetition. When we attempt to radically change all at once, new routines, new identity, new expectations, the nervous system often reads this as a threat, not growth. This is why so many New Year resets completely collapse before we even reach the end of January. Now, I remember when the 5 a.m. wake up club became a thing. It was everywhere that you looked. Wake up at 5, win the warning, be productive, completely transform your life. So do you know what? I'll be honest. One year I decided this is it. This is a year I become that 5 a.m. person. I set my alarm. I planned the perfect morning the night before. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to journal. I'm going to exercise. I had this whole to-do list. And it was all going to happen before 10 a.m. Now, on paper, it looked like discipline, like growth. But in reality, I was just sleepy all day. My brain felt fuzzy. My body felt like it was in complete shock. What I thought would make me feel clear and focused actually made everything feel heavier. And to be honest, within a week, maybe not even that, it felt like a chore and I completely stopped. So for a while, I actually told myself this story that we hear so often, that I just didn't stick to it. I wasn't disciplined enough. The shame, not feeling good enough, a failure, it all crept in. And it just felt awful. But later, when I read Atomic Habits, something clicked. The problem wasn't willpower. It was how I was trying to change. The science shows that habits don't stick when we shock the system. They stick when they are attached to rhythms that already exist. Now, this is where the whole idea of habit stacking comes from. Instead of forcing a brand new behavior, you gently layer into something you are already doing. So I used to already brush my teeth every morning, right? So I wanted to start doing tongue scraping. So I simply added that on straight after brushing my teeth. It's not become a whole new person overnight, but rather it's let's take this new habit and let's put it next to something familiar. And suddenly my experiences with the 5 a.m. Thing that I had became so clear. Everything made so much sense. My body wasn't resisting growth. It was resisting that disruption. And this is exactly what rhythm is about. It's not about intensity or optimization. It's about working with your system, not overriding it. Let's make this concrete. Rhythm is not about doing more. Rather, it's about relationship. And it exists on 3 very, very real levels. Number 1 being our biological rhythm. The way we sleep, the way we wake, your digestion, your energy rising, falling throughout the day. Now, these rhythms don't respond well to force. They respond to consistency, to repeated actions. The second is emotional rhythm, that natural oscillation between effort and rest, between expression and containment, between finding connection and wanting solitude. When we ignore this rhythm, we push past ourselves until the body pushes back. And that's when you fall ill and everything starts to feel really heavy. Now, the third is our behavioral rhythm. This is what you return to when life happens, when disruptions come in out of our control. That's not your ideal routine, okay? It is your baseline, your actual baseline, that tea you make, the way you unwind, how and when you reach for your phone and scroll through TikTok mindlessly. Those moments that quietly regulate you, often without you even consciously realizing. Rhythm isn't something you invent. It's something you remember. I'm going to say that again. Rhythm is something you remember. Now, before we go any further, I want you to pause with me for a moment. You don't need to close your eyes or anything like that if that feels awkward. Just soften your focus and ask yourself gently this one question. Where in my life do I already have rhythm without forcing it? See what comes up. Not where you should, not where Instagram tells you where to, but where it already exists. Now notice. Your breath may slow. Your shoulders might drop and relax. Your body knows before your mind comprehends. And there's no right answer here. Because rhythm reveals what's sustainable for you, not what looks impressive on the outside. Stay with that for a few seconds. Pause this video if you need to. Now, this is a practice I want to offer to you, and it's not a habit, rather it's a map. You can do this in your journal or just mentally for now. The first step you want to take is identify one natural anchor. Ask yourself, what is one thing I already return to that brings me back to myself? Now, that might look like a quiet morning before you pick up your phone. It might be a walk in nature by water. That's one of mine. It might be stretching without a plan, without a YouTube video telling you what to do. It might be sitting with a warm drink and just being with your thoughts or daydreaming. This is not a task. It's your home base. Something your system already recognizes as regulating. Second step, notice where you keep forcing resets, where you repeatedly say things like, this year I'll finally fix this. I'll make sure I never do that again. From an internal family systems perspective, this voice usually isn't your whole self. It's often just a part of you, a protective part, trying to prevent pain, failure, disappointment. And whilst its intention is usually good, its strategy is often false. So instead of judging that voice, try getting curious. You might ask yourself, what part of me is afraid right now? What is it trying to protect me from? And really just mull that over. What does it believe will happen if I don't change immediately? Very often, this isn't a discipline problem at all. It's in fact a complete rhythm mismatch between a protective part that wants to control and a body that needs safety and steadiness. Now, step 3, choose one, just one, don't overwhelm the system, one gentle return. Instead of adding something new, ask yourself, how can I return to my anchor more consistently, especially on difficult days? Not to override yourself, but to reassure your system. Now, this is how rhythm forms, not through motivation, not through self-pressure, but through a relationship. This is what protects us from self-blame, from burnout, those thoughts of self-degradation and that cycle of shaming and the so-called relapsing. Because when we get curious with ourselves and apply this lens, nothing has gone wrong. A part of you is speaking and your body is asking to be met, not managed. In yoga and Ayurveda, health was never defined as perfection. It was defined as alignment with cycles, daily, emotional, and seasonal. There's a word for this in Ayurveda. It's called ritucharya, living in relationship with the seasons of this earth. And this is where my 5 a.m. experiment makes even more sense now. Because in the Northern Hemisphere, winters are cold, dark, and all about being inward. The mornings are heavier, the light comes in so much later, around 8 a.m. during the darkest weeks. And the nervous system naturally wants more warmth, more of those gradual transitions. So when I tried to suddenly wake up at 5 a.m. in the middle of winter, thinking this was going to make me more alert, productive, and an all better person, I wasn't just fighting my habits, I was fighting the season itself. Now, winter is not designed for stark, sudden change. It's designed for those slower, more conscious starts, for conserving our energy, and for having those gentle, consistent actions, routines, and rhythms, not intensity. And if you look at this from a biological perspective, our circadian rhythm is so deeply influenced by light exposure. Dark mornings signal for the body to stay in rest mode for longer. From a seasonal wisdom perspective, winter asks for us to protect our energy, not to spend it all before we even have had our first meal of the day. So that failure, it wasn't a personal flaw. It was a complete and utter rhythm mismatch between my expectations, my nervous system, and quite frankly, the season I was living in. Hi, hello, editing Tajba here. Wanted to jump in and say one thing I forgot to talk about in the video is that we also need to take into consideration as women our monthly cycle and rhythms, and how this impacts the level of energy we have and how productive we can be in time of year and the season included in that. So there's going to be a whole other video on that and like a yoga and Ayurveda perspective on it. So stay tuned for that. Now, modern culture asks us to be exactly the same in January and do exactly the same things in January as we do in June. Your body knows that that doesn't make sense, so it will naturally try to resist it. And that's where we feel that inconsistency and we feel that bashing against a brick wall. So if the new year has felt heavy, or if you felt behind before you've even begun, please believe me when I say nothing has gone wrong. You don't need to start over. You don't need to become someone else overnight when that clock hits 12. What you need is rhythm that you can return to, even when motivation fades, especially when motivation fades, because it will. And that's not giving up, that's just clear wisdom. If this resonated, I've created a free journaling guide to help you map your own rhythms gently, honestly, without pressure. You can find it linked in the description below. And if this kind of conversation feels nourishing, I'd love for you to stay. Here on this channel, we'll continue exploring how ancient wisdom supports modern life through the body, the breath, the mind, and the rhythms we live by. Subscribe, share, or simply sit with what landed. And as always, thank you so much for sharing your time, your energy, and your presence. May you always be guided by your inner light and wisdom. I'll see you in the next video.